Everyone in the small town of Gravenhill knew one rule: never go near room 726 in the old Burnhart Hotel. It had been closed for 42 years, but no one talked about why. Some said it was cursed. Some said something lived inside. Most people just stayed away. But one cold, rainy night, an old man named Edgar Kane came to town. He was tall, thin, with a cane and eyes that didn't blink enough. No one knew where he came from, and he didn't tell. He just asked one thing at the front desk of the Burnhart Hotel: "I want room 726. The young man behind the counter laughed nervously. "We don't rent that room, sir." Edgar leaned forward slowly. "You will tonight." The receptionist looked into his eyes. Something cold passed through his spine. Against his better judgment, he gave the key. That night, Edgar took the elevator up to the 7th floor. The hotel was quiet. The lights flickered as he walked down the hallway. When he reached the door, he touched the old brass numbers: 7, 2, 6. They were colder than ice. He smiled. Inside, the room was covered in sheets and dust. The wallpaper was peeling. The chandelier above the bed swung lightly, even though no wind blew. He didn't turn on the light. He didn't need to. The darkness knew him. He sat in the chair near the window and waited, not for sleep, for something else. At 3:07 a.m., the floorboards creaked. Edgar didn't move. A soft whisper came from the corner. "Get out." He smiled. "Still here, are you?" The whisper turned into a low growl. Something began crawling along the ceiling. Limbs twisted the wrong way, eyes glowing yellow. The thing opened its mouth, filled with tiny teeth like needles. But Edgar didn't scream. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather book. He opened it and began to read in a language older than time. The creature dropped from the ceiling, landing with a wet crunch. It snarled and lunged, but something stopped it midair. It floated, suspended, writhing in pain. Edgar stood, voice rising. The symbols in the book began to glow red. The creature shrieked, smoke pouring from its skin. Then silence. It vanished. But Edgar knew it wasn't dead, just angry. The next night, the hotel manager, Mr. Lennox, knocked on the door. "Sir, is everything all right?" Edgar opened the door slowly. "Fine. Just don't disturb me again." Mr. Lennox tried to smile. "We don't usually rent that room." "I know," Edgar said. "That's why I chose it." Before the manager could ask more, the door shut. At 3:07 a.m., it happened again. This time, the bed moved. The sheets rose in the air, twisting into a shape. A woman, weeping, eyes gouged out, mouth stitched shut. She hovered above the floor, pointing to the closet. Edgar opened it. Inside was a man's body, dry, mummified, face frozen in terror. Its hands were missing. The ghost woman vanished, but her scream stayed in the air. Edgar placed a silver coin on the body's forehead. "I remember you," he whispered. "You screamed the loudest." The body twitched. Back in the hallway, the lights went out. Guests on the 7th floor began hearing voices through the walls. Some heard a baby crying, some heard scratching. One guest swore he heard someone whisper his name in his ear. When he turned around, no one was there. The third night, a maid entered room 726 by mistake. She never came out. They found her keys outside the door. The hotel called the police. They searched the room, but found nothing. Edgar sat in the chair the whole time, watching. "They never learn," he said. That night, the walls bled. Thick black blood oozed from the cracks, dripping onto the carpet. It smelled like rust and rot. Edgar didn't flinch. He dipped his fingers in it and drew a symbol on the floor. It burned into the wood like acid. Then came the knocking. First from the bathroom, then from under the bed, then from inside the walls. Each knock was slower than the last, each one louder, like fists wrapped in skinless bone. Something was trying to get out, or in. At 3:07 a.m., the mirror shattered. From the shards crawled dozens of small, pale hands. They grabbed Edgar's ankles, pulled him toward the glass, but he only laughed. "You're weaker than I remember." He threw a fistful of ash at them. The hands screamed and burned away. The room filled with smoke that smelled like old graves. Downstairs, guests began checking out in the middle of the night. One man ran out barefoot, bleeding from the eyes. Another refused to speak ever again. By the fifth night, room 726 was humming. A low, constant hum like 1,000 voices whispering under the floor. The walls pulsed. The carpet rippled like waves. Edgar had not slept once. He sat surrounded by candles, bones, and mirrors. In the center of the room, he placed a wooden box. He opened it carefully. Inside was a heart, still beating. He spoke to it. "Are you ready?" It didn't answer. It didn't have to. That night, something escaped. The air cracked, not thunder, something deeper, a sound that made the paintings cry. A black mist rose from the floor, thick and full of faces, screaming faces. Edgar whispered, "Welcome back." The mist wrapped around him like a cloak. His eyes rolled back. His skin stretched thin, then smooth. His back straightened. He stood without the cane. He was no longer an old man. The receptionist who gave him the key came up to check on him. He knocked once. The door opened itself. He stepped inside and screamed. Edgar was floating. The room was full of shadows that moved like smoke but had teeth. The receptionist's skin turned pale, his veins turning black. His hair fell out in chunks. He tried to run, but the door was gone. Only a wall remained. He was never seen again. By the seventh night, the police had sealed the hotel. But room 726 kept glowing. People saw it from the street, red light pouring from the window, shapes moving inside. The hotel owner came with priests and holy water. They opened the door. Inside was Edgar, or what was left of him. His skin hung from the ceiling like a curtain. His face was on the floor, still blinking. His spine had been carved with symbols, but he was alive, somehow. He whispered, "You're too late." Then every light in the hotel exploded, and something stepped out of room 726. It wasn't human, it wasn't ghost, it was older. The thing looked like a man but moved like a spider. Its limbs were too long, its mouth was sideways. It had no eyes, just black holes that dripped something thick and dark. It looked at the priests. They burst into flames. The hotel burned that night. Room 726 was the only part that didn't catch fire. When they dug through the ashes, they found nothing. No bodies, no bones, not even a room. Just a single brass number, 726. And it was still cold. To this day, people report seeing a tall man with a cane walking into hotels and asking for closed rooms. And at 3:07 a.m., some say they hear knocking from the walls. If you do, never answer, because Edgar Kane is still opening doors. And the thing inside room 726 is still hungry